switch front foot impossibles aren't really as difficult as they look. It's pretty much just a switch front shove with a wrap tied into it. Now the reason I prefer to do them switch is because I do impossibles a lot. So I have like a more natural feeling when I wrap with my back foot instead of my front foot. And when I do them switch, my back foot turns into my front foot. So I have a more natural feeling when I wrap it. So you can learn them regular too. Like you can just pretend I'm goofy. It's the same exact motions. I just feel it's more natural for me to do them switch than regular. Now another quick tip is if you want to learn them switch, try them out nollie. And if you want to learn them regular, you can try them out fakie, because if you do nollie or fakie, they have a tendency of going a lot faster and it helps you get that rotation that you want. And another benefit is if you're like me and it's more natural for you to wrap with your back foot, if you do them nollie, you get both a fast rotation and wrap and you land regular. Instead of if you do them switch, you'll have a somewhat slower time wrapping it and you'll land switch, which can throw you off sometimes. Now it's just something to think about because nollie and fakie and switch and regular all have the same movements, except nollie and fakie go a little faster and may help you with your rotation problems or whatever you have. So 2 tricks you should know for this trick would be the impossible, because it's a wrap trick, and the switch front foot impossible is also a wrap trick, so you get more experience if you want to be impossible. And when you start doing the switch front foot impossible, you will realize that it has a lot of regular impossible like qualities to it. So if you learn the regular impossible, you're pretty much halfway done with learning the trick. Now this trick took me like a half an hour to an hour to learn because I was pretty decent with impossibles. I was pretty consistent with them, and it really helped speed up the process when I was learning them. Now, I should remember that impossibles are not mandatory. They will help you a lot, but they're not mandatory whatsoever. But what is mandatory is the switch frontside pop shove, because the first part of the switch front foot impossible is a switch frontside shove. So you gotta learn that. So if you're gonna be doing these regular, just switch my stances around. Like switch impossibles will be a good trick to learn, and frontside pop shoves will be mandatory. Now I cannot switch impossible for the life of me. I have no idea how they work, but I can pull off a regular front foot impossible from time to time, but they're horribly inconsistent. So the setup of the switch front foot impossible will be your back foot like a switch frontside pop shove, like this. Make sure your toes are right at the end of the board to give it a nice pop, and have it angled like this. And your front foot is going to be way up the board. It's going to be like covering 2 bolts or covering 4 bolts. Now I kind of switch between these 2 stances from time to time, but I feel that it's a little bit easier if you cover the 4 bolts. Now my personal preference is having my front foot cover the 4 front bolts. Now you're probably thinking that this is probably the most awkward setup for any trick ever, but this actually does work very well from my experience. Now you can cover the front 2 bolts if you want to, or maybe you can go a little bit behind it, but I strongly recommend the front 4 because it helps give you that wrap. And if you go too far back, like you're halfway down the board, you're gonna have a really difficult time trying to wrap this trick. Now when you have the setup down, when you're doing the trick, make sure your weight is over the whole board. Don't be too far to the left or too far to the right. Make sure your weight is centered right over the board. Because if you do lean too far, what's going to happen is you're going to land into tailstop. You'll land like probably like this, or you'll sometimes you'll land like this and it's hard to recover from it. So try to just have your weight over so you have more control over the trick. Yeah, so once you have your weight distributed properly, start by doing your switch frontside pop shove like this, and your front foot is going to follow the board. And what I mean by follow is that since your switch frontside pop shoves go like this, what's going to happen is your front foot is going to be going with the board like this. And while it's doing that, it's going to be dragging up the board. You don't want to go like over, because then you won't have any contact with the board. You want to have it drag up the board like this. Now, when you're dragging up the board, your main target is the nose. You really want to drag it up to the nose and grab it here, like this. So if you're not going to remember anything in this video, try this one tip right here. Make sure you drag up to the nose. you want to have your front foot right here. This is where you start the trick. And it's pretty much like 90% of the trick. This is the hardest part for a lot of people, is to get their front foot all the way to the nose and to tilt it right at the nose. That's how you get the wrap, is to tilt. Or some people would say grabbing the board like this, they take it away. Now you tilt the board at the nose as opposed to the board, because if you try tilting it at the board, it's not going to go anywhere. Now literally, like almost every single problem you have with this trick would most likely be because you're not dragging your front foot up to the nose and grabbing it on the nose. Okay, so back to this trick. So once you're at the nose like this is where impossibles really help. What you do is you tilt the board, or you could say you grabbing the board, and what you're going to do is you're going to whip it around like this, around your foot, like that. So how you whip the board around is with your tilted foot. You're going to draw a small circle in the air, and it's going to be quick. It'll be like this. So it'll be like this. So don't draw your circle too small, or you won't have enough force to push the board, and you won't have enough rotation. And don't draw your circle too big, or you won't have enough time for it to rotate the whole 360. I know I'm probably going to look stupid if I do this, but this is pretty much how I do the trick. I'm like this. So I kind of just go up to the nose, wrap it around, and then back onto the board. Now, hopefully that helps. I hope that looking stupid helped someone. I can't teach you how to draw the circle because it's all muscle memory. I'm not going to be like, oh, the dimensions is 2 squared pi. No, you got to learn it for yourself. It's kind of just, my leg just does it. I really can't explain it. My front foot just naturally knows how to draw the circle by itself. I don't have to think about it, it just does it. So all I can say is, it's all on you. You just gotta practice the motion. So once you do get all that down and you get the 360, or maybe even like this diagonal, because you're gonna have a little bit more shove when it goes back down, you're going to level your foot. That's all you have to do. And your board just comes up like this. It's pretty nice. And it's just that. It's plain and simple. You just raise your foot back. That's it. So yeah, that's pretty much the switch from Foot Impossible. So you can practice this trick pretty much like any other trick. You break it down, like for example, to practice the wrap, you could pop the board, and instead of trying to get your back foot to land back onto the board, just have it fall down onto the ground, and get your front foot to wrap it, and just practice doing that a few times. This will help you get more experience, be more comfortable with the wrap. But don't do it too often, because you could be in the habit of landing like this, or you could be prone to landing in tailstop a lot. So don't do it too much, but just enough so you get the feeling of the wrap of the trick. Now, a few common problems with this trick would be when you start it, you don't really wrap the trick. It just kind of goes like that. What you gotta do is make sure your setup is like this, with your front foot over the front 4 bolts, or front 2, whatever you want, somewhere around here. And also practice on your front side pop shove speeds. You could be going too fast, or you could be going a little slow. It's always good to get it a good speed. And you should also remember to drag your front foot up to the nose. This is really, really important. Just dragging it up to the nose, grabbing it, or tilting it, and getting it around like that. The whole problem is because you did not grab the board. The next common problem is rotation. Now this is a really, really big problem for a lot of people, especially me when I was learning that. What you gotta do is, you can experiment on the front side pop shove speeds like before. Just go maybe faster or slower, see which one is the best for you. Another tip would be how you draw your circles. Practice on maybe drawing bigger, maybe smaller, faster, and see which ones work for you. And also make sure you drag your front foot up to the nose. This helps a lot. I'm really stressing on everybody grabbing or tilting at the nose, because if you tilt here, not going to work. Tilt here, not going to work. Here, not going to work. It's going to be right here. This is where you get your rotation. So another common problem with this trick would be you get the rotation, but your front foot kind of slips out and you land like this, upside down. And how you prevent that is maybe tilt your front foot a bit more. That could be a problem, but you don't want to strain your front foot. It has to be nice and easy, a nice tilt, like something like that. And another tip is make sure your front foot is strong and is in control. You really got to go in there and just push it around and make sure your front foot never slips from the board. It's a pretty easy fix, actually. And another common problem with this trick is landing tailstop like this, or maybe like this. And how you prevent that is you gotta make sure that when you start the trick, your weight is over the whole board. Can't be like this or like that, as I mentioned before. And you have to just have your weight centered on the board. And when you do the trick, make sure the board stays under you the whole time. You don't want to let it drift out too much, or you're gonna land in tailstop. And another tip for this problem would be after you do the wrap, like this, and you go like this, bring your front foot into you. Your board actually sticks with your foot, and you can kind of just move it toward your body. And it's actually pretty awesome, because then you could land it pretty well. Also, another tip is you could be over the board like this, but when you start the trick, what could happen is you could be pushing the board away from you, and it's going like this, and your back foot is right here. Now just remember, try to keep the whole trick under you. You don't want to be far away, because it'll be hard to bring it back to you. So yeah, that should be all the common problems. If you have any other problems, feel free to comment. Hope it helps. And yeah, that's it.